Aaron, I'm wondering if you're there. Maybe I've been sitting here and the audio is not on, and you've missed the whole conversation. Is that right? I think it's what happened. I didn't.
Maybe he's away.
Maybe he's away too.
Yeah, maybe he's stepped away.
Maybe he's going.
Network is working now.
Yeah.
Oh, there you are, Aaron.
Hi, Viv.
Have we've been
I assume that the meeting didn't start yet.
we've been talking for the last half hour, but I
Oh,
I didn't have the audio on, Aaron. I'm so sorry. Well, no, I have to hear. So Aaron, it's been a very dynamic discussion here, and we really would like your input. I think this would help actually the discussion. So we have the principle of Carlisle College, which is where Colin Smith started, and where the Matul was one of our starting points was there along with ATS and HBI. So he's an enthusiastic brother. It's really good talk because and then the others who've worked with Carlisle College across the years, they're just excited because he's keen to see a progression at the bachelor's level of what they already have. And you have those progressions. And then a brother from Tanzania, it's St. John's, right? It's St. John's in Tanzania. They've just applied for accreditation for a program at the bachelor's level as well, right?
Yeah.
That some of the folk from here, from the Center for Urban Mission, have been working with them on. So that's been part of the discussion. In between, I've just been injecting. There's certain things that work and some things don't work, like try and keep it separate from the structure, but in partnership with, which Seth has already figured out in their network. And the need for not just having a 1.5 faculty or 2 faculty that are totally committed to this, but also a recruiter. So you might want to speak to that issue as well. But maybe you could explain, I hope you'll have to speak very loudly, but explain how what you've got in terms of the C tool and the M tool and the B tool and how it's worked for you. I'll try and put you in the
so can you hear? Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Is that loud enough?
Yes.
So we don't actually have a bachelor's ATS. It's only seminary. They're in process for applying to start a bachelor's, but there's a lot of government paperwork, and so that will be several years down the road. And so we do have the MA was originally started, and we started a MDiv, and that's been going on for several years. There's not a whole lot of interest in the MDiv program. A few people start an MA and then switch to MDiv because they want more Bible and theology, but most don't unless their church requests them to do the full MDiv, because it's so much longer. It's double. MDiv is practically double the course load. And then we just launched the certificate as I shared the other night. And there's some interest in that. The problem is it's under the entire seminary, so the prices are quite expensive, especially for urban poor. So the interest now, it's really bigger NGOs that have the funding, or if I'm trying to get tied up with a scholarship where ATS can subsidize some of the cost. But there's definitely a downside with being not a completely separate program, where when Matul originally started at ATS, it was considered a special program and completely separate. And now it's been integrated, which the advantages other students take Motul classes as electives, and that's helped some with class size. But the downside is others, the full faculty has a vote in the Motul program, which it's not entirely problematic. The faculty is very supportive, but they do want, like, the hermeneutics class as required by that. There's no give in that. They want, and they want it taught by their people, which we've had lots of back and forth over that.
Those
And
people
then, but that's
because of
really the only course that they're requiring us to offer. And as far as recruiting, there used to be a Motul coordinator that worked with me, another full-time, basically office secretary or office assistant, and she'd help with a lot with recruiting. Alumni have really been the main driver of recruitment, and which is why I'm trying to reconnect with some of the alumni as far as to get help with recruiting, especially post-pandemic and then post-pandemic. Throughout the pandemic, the few years of that, every year we've only had one person enroll. So a few years of that. So our numbers are really low right now. So recruitment is really the main push at the moment. And it's, excuse me.
Once you lost your recruiter, it went down.
Yes. And then especially when the alumni quit gathering, also when they stopped having fellowships with the pandemic, then the momentum from their end also went down.
So I have a question, and then I'll follow it
Yes.
up. A suggestion to everyone here. First, Matthew, is your program going to be online as well? Do you have a hybrid component to it? No. So it's going to be a physical, yeah. And then later on, think about online. Yeah. So the reason I'm saying that is in the US right now, a lot of small schools have either lost their accreditation, struggled with funding, and the pandemic also hit them in the area of enrollment. And so what some of these small schools had begun to do in terms of strengthening themselves is creating a consortium of colleges. So there is a consortium of small colleges, for example. What that means is that you share resources, particularly teaching resources. And so what makes that possible, though, is the possibility of some of these courses being offered online. So granted that the programs that we're thinking right now have to be contextual to, localized and contextual, but some of the other theoretical courses can be shared. So that you have just one faculty, perhaps sitting in Dodoma or sitting somewhere and teaching these courses, with the East African students or even some West African students, provided the timelines can be arranged and so on and so forth. Sharing material, sharing course stacks, and so on and so forth. And that reduces the cost of each individual program because the resources are shared. So maybe that's something that we might think about instituting or creating in the near future in terms of strengthening each of these programs. Again, so creating a consortium.
There's positive and negative models of that, but in Chicago, Boston, they've had long-term urban consortium between different schools. We tried it in Auckland in New Zealand. It was a catastrophe. Theologically, people couldn't agree. And so it just fell apart. I got my degree, my PhD before it all fell apart, but it lasted about 7 years. Took me 8 years to get the PhD. So it's something to explore in terms of books. WCA, one thing that can do to help is we do have a library, and I think the provost is quite keen actually to share his partnerships, that library, whether there's a way, whether the cost is that would be viable for you. We at some point I identified a 400 book library for urban missions. That needs a lot of updating. But online books, do your students actually read online books or do they need physical books?
Both.
They will do both.
Mhm.
Okay. Yeah.
So, I mean, let me move us a little bit on this, but just sharing what we do in our experience is that we have, we are at the grassroots level. So that's our entry point. And it's because of the needs that exist in the urban spaces. A pastor is here, they have a following, they've been doing this for 10 years, but hey, the guy is not trained. And who are you to move their congregation to another place where they're trained? So ours has been to meet them at that point and to provide sort of the first aid in theological education.
Yeah.
And that, of course, Chef has run that program. Salim has been part of that. Alvin has helped to design some of the thought processes around that. And of course, that is being currently being run by under the leadership of ISO. And there has been a very clear synergy for us, between us and Carlisle College, for instance, because we do the recruitment out of the need. We prepare them for 1 year to 1 year and a half, so that by the time they show up at Carlisle's door, they have a backing, they have a letter, they have some training that now qualifies somebody who was not qualified to get into that door. So as far as, and we scholarship them fully, it's contextualized, it's within the community, they're able to do that at a very reasonable pace. And it's actually a very good course. I mean, Shet, you can attest to that. So that by the time the students come out, they are fully functional as urban practitioners and theologians, and they're doing really well. But CTM is not accredited to do that. But hey, we are not looking for that. We are concerned about the majority Christians in our city. And we need to make sure that they have sound theology in terms of teaching. And so Carlisle has become our next step. And this is why I think it's very important. If this connection can happen, then our students have the next step in a way that will not really, limit their capabilities. That's happening through, it's going to happen with a partnership with what Shet is doing with Nazarene University. That's going to be another option if this goes through with Carlisle continuously, so that our students can now have two or multiple options. What we've always been looking for are accredited institutions that can actually now elevate these pastors and leaders to the next level, in line with the government requirement. Once that is operationalized, it's going to be very hard for one to operate a church without these certifications. But then we also don't want people just running anywhere and everywhere to get certificates so that they can be registered. We want sound theological teaching emanating from, a consortium like this. So I'm very excited to be able to partner, with Matul by extension through the partnership with colleges like Carlisle. Now, we did this with Bucky Graduate University, but we could not sustain that because of cost implication. It became very expensive. We actually just did one class. It was at master's level. Once that was graduated, that was the end of it. At least $23,000 that per student. Yes, for the whole degree. Yes, but the money was raised. Yeah. So we were able to fundraise for that. And it was also a hybrid system where professors would fly in and then do block courses and then go back and then would meet, on a weekly, monthly, and then every 3 months. And so it worked, but so expensive. So I think this is a very good solution. What Chet is currently spearheading and what Carlisle College is seeking. It would really, really be a good news for our students. Yeah.
Of shared resources. I'm just wondering, because also reflecting back on the experience we had Matul and St. Paul's then with their accreditors was the issue around assessment. Because when you go online, then it means the models of assessment change. Okay? Here you had a situation whereby it's a 60-40 or a 70-30, and 70 you have to sit in a class and the teacher has to stand there to check who is copying. Which was different from the model that is applied in at home. So it's something we can't borrow from, but then go back to the grassroots accreditors. Of course, thank God for COVID, because COVID has pushed everybody online. Initially, it was a little bit difficult. So I wonder in the different countries that we have, whether there is flexibility around assessment, because the Matul one is very practical cases and reported consistently across the semester. But if it's completely a sit-in, I know a part of our university in South Africa, even the sit-in can still be done on an online platform. So I think it will depend really. But I think that's a very brilliant thing, because if you have 2-3 students in Nazarene and 2-3 students in different place, and you have a shared resource among faculty, then it's easy to run that program.
Yeah, thank you. I have one question, then one response. How is it in Kenya? Can't a college apply to the accreditation body to accredit it to offer bachelor's? Because in Uganda we have degree awarding colleges, which are not fully fledged universities. We have degree awarding colleges, which are not fully fledged universities. But when you apply for accreditation of a degree program and they look at your human resource, they can give you the mandate to offer that bachelor's program in a college. If it is not here, then Carlisle will be having a challenge still via St. Paul's, and the same story might end up playing.
Attack the question. He's loud enough.
Accreditation here might be a bit different. If an academic institution is not accredited to offer degree programs, it can still offer a degree program through another university. But according to the recent kind of policy which was established, we have to become a constituent college to that university. Though that's something that we are going to look at and prefer the option which will work for us.
Okay.
Though accreditation is another process, we have been working for that, but it is a very tedious exercise. It is very expensive, but we still believe that our college will at one time in the future become an accredited university.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, that is good. And then the consortium thing. We have a challenge with our university. We are like collegial. We have a college in Western Uganda. We have a college in Eastern Uganda. We have a campus in Northern Uganda. And all these programs, these colleges and campuses have been running postgraduate programs. Then the main campus said, no, this is too much. Let us concentrate and make every postgraduate program to be online. And when that happened, resource sharing became a problem. You give a lecturer from the main campus and maybe Western Uganda, Eastern Uganda, you find somebody is not teaching. And when it comes to remuneration, they want to get some money when they have not done the work. So unless this is done carefully, otherwise it will break the system right from the beginning. Because now who is going to collect the rent? Who is going to collect the tuition? And how are the lecturers going to be paid? So before we think of moving like that, a critical thinking has to take place so that by the time we realize that, we are on the same page. Otherwise, Kalai will say, okay, let us collect all the fees here. Then the Nazarene people say, no, 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 we have people coming through here. We have to have the money, and then we share and see how we can pay the lecturers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you can help us to come to a consensus because of our time. Yes. We just have 2 minutes here.
Let me say something.
Yes.
So these people here in Nairobi, these people in Nairobi have a massive ecosystem. They have the church army, which was, back in the revival in the 1800s, really formed. Then within the church army, they've had Carlisle College as a serious structure committed to the poor. Then they've got Kibera, which is big enough to have a center. So you need a big enough slum to do something significant. And they've had the resources of people like Colin Smith to get the thing moving. Whereas you're struggling because it's not such an ecosystem regarding the urban poor ministry. You've got program. So now Carlo can say, well, we can be a feed, we can have CUM feed students. Those students can then feed into other programs. So the question is, could you steal a whole bunch of these people somehow to set up some feeder systems? My recommendation has been the feeder systems within the Pentecostal churches in the slums, because the government is requiring that they become educated. So they are very open to education. Is there a particular partnership? The other partnerships can be the development agencies, but they don't really want them at all. The development agencies don't really want to live among the poor. They don't want to be among the poor. They want to go in and do a program and come out and live a good lifestyle. But there may be some development agencies that could actually become formal partners, right? Yeah. So now to wrap up, as what are we doing for time? Yeah, to wrap up, we've got more discussion later on. But this has been a good discussion. I think particularly related to Carlo. Sheth, I think you want to say something more? Do I?
I want to mention in terms of the cost. In my thesis, when I was looking at theological education, one of the things in terms of access had to do with money. And so when I had discussion with the university, because the total cost was coming to about 270 to 280,000 for the postgraduate diploma. But in the thesis, I'd also looked at the possibility, because I work with CTM and CUM, I looked at the possibility of looking for organizations working within the informal settlements to partner with universities, so that they, as they do fundraising, they can also fundraise for their students, so the people that they want to work with. And so that's why the Resonate, as an organization working within the city, can get into that kind of arrangement with the university. And so that helped us to reduce the cost from 280 to 70 to 140. That is what we'll be charging for the course. And then now the Resonate is also looking for money for partial scholarships, so that many can access from the informal settlements.
So it brings up the issue of money, which we had a good discussion yesterday. David and I concluded it cost $28,000 for a 2-year degree at UCU. So then I just believe you need to create endowments. God sent a brother to me who gave us $500,000. Off the interest of that, I can fund 10 students a year. So in my mind, I'm calculating off David's figures, and we may not be accurate with these, but if each school had an endowment of $300,000, then and maybe it could be much less, then what you need for viability is at least 10 students, new students each year for a 2-year program. So you got 20 students in a program. Ideally, you bring in 20 students a year, you've got 40 students. That's a very solid program. And so that's fundable off that kind of endowment. So then calculating out from that, what was the figure we came from? I think 750,000 to set up 25 schools across Africa. That's 7.5 million. We need to do the figures, right? But what do we need to ask God for in order to make this happen in 25 schools across Africa? You know, with various forms of urban missions training. It doesn't, there's plenty of money around. One of our professors at Andrea Makalinen is very gifted at fundraising and training people in fundraising. So we have a course on doing that. It's one approach. Now, it's in opposition to the commitment to indigenous funding processes. So the flip side is to say, well, don't go that way. Don't depend on foreign funding. Take Alvin and multiply Alvin's courses everywhere. So every one of your graduates creates a business. So I don't know where we go with this discussion, but that's the discussion on the table, right? That's a local leaders discussion.